Welcome to another episode of Porschenomics, where we are going to answer yet another question that I'm sure is on your lips, and indeed maybe has been on your lips for some time as a Porsche fanatic as I am, and that is this. What are the 10 best Porsches ever to have purchased in history from the best investment perspective? So in other words, the cars in the Porsche range that you could have bought that have made the most money in history. So as ever on this channel, of course, it's a controversial question, or rather the answer, the opinion that we have as Porschenomics, you may not agree with. Regardless of that, I would be very grateful if you could like this video, subscribe to us, and indeed place your comments underneath, particularly as we get going from 10 down to 1, because I'm sure that although we have been very, very thorough indeed in terms of our listing, our analysis, our presupposing as to why the top 10 are the top 10, you may well disagree. But on that note, because it was quite a mammoth task to analyse every Porsche ever produced by Porsche and then tracking from new price up to today in the UK, so this is a UK-based video, a UK-based analysis, looking then at the appreciation of each one of those models from when they were new, over all of the years since production, up until today's value. In true progressive technological form, we asked ChatGPT. So if you disagree, I'm afraid you're wrong, unless you think you're cleverer than ChatGPT, of course. So look, let's get into it with the 10 in reverse order. In at number 10 is a 997. Not one of these, that's a Carrera S Cabriolet, and not that rare, lovely car as it is, but it's the 997 GT2 RS. And yes, I said GT2 RS. We may come back to the GT3 RS later on. So the GT2 was introduced in 2010, just 500 cars produced, and actually only 19 cars made it to the UK, and therefore, surprise, surprise, as you will see is the theme of this video, as a consequence of such low numbers, such rarity, the GT2 RS, which cost £164,000 when new back in 2010, now retails, depending on condition, depending on mileage, of course, and provenance, at about £350,000 to £400,000. Now, let me tell you why it's number 10 and not number 8 or number 5 or number 1, in fact, is because we have calculated the new price of each car that will be in this list and then looked at the price now based on lots and lots of comparable evidence, looked at the appreciation over that period of time since that car was first produced and launched, and then divided it by the number of years that those cars have existed, if you see what I mean. So in other words, we get to an annual appreciation rate. So a bit like if you were to put your money into savings or the stock market, a fund or gold or whatever, you would want to look at what the annual return is. So that is a total appreciation rate of 113% over that period of time, so 15 years since it was first produced. So 8% per annum. Not bad, certainly more than you'd get if you were putting your money into savings, but nothing like what we're about to talk about in the rest of the list. So in at number 9, but actually before we get to number 9, let me tell you, as a bit of a spoiler alert, some of the cars that are not in the top 10 list that you may take issue with, you may argue with. Let me know in the comments if you think they should be included, but I'm afraid the ChatGPT maths, again, would disagree with you. One of the cars not included in this list is the 993 Turbo. Another car not included in the list is the 964 Turbo, not even the 3.6. And the 3.2 Club Sport, a very, very rare and coveted car, also did not make this list. Let your feelings be known in the comments if you think they should be included. But at number 9 is not this car, this rather fetching Boxster, but certainly a car that has the ability to take the roof off, and one of only 3 cars in this list that is not a 911. And that car at number 9 in this list is the 918 Spider, the hybrid, the quite miraculous and incredibly clever and super fast car that was produced in 2013. Guess how many of the 918 they made? Doesn't take a lot of working out, does it? 918. So there are 918 918 Spiders in the world. That car, when new, was £653,000. Can you believe that? So 12 years ago, £653,000. Quite incredible. Those cars now, and again, my usual caveat, depending on mileage, condition, colour, provenance, and so on, typically will retail in the UK for about £1.25 million. So that's a 91% increase. So yes, a £1.25 million car, lots more money than that car was new, but actually has only appreciated by 90% in the 12 years since it was first produced. So that's an annual inflation rate, an annual investment gain, if you will, of just, big inverted commas, 8%. That's the 918 Spider at number 9. Well, in at number 8, guess what? It's our first air-cooled car, the 964 RS. This isn't quite an RS, looks a bit like an RS, but it's a Carrera 2. It'll do for the purposes of demonstrating our point. The 964 RS was produced for the first time in 1992. You could buy one of these wonderful things for £55,000. Now, especially for a right-hand drive car, which obviously of the 2,282 built, there were not many right-hand drive vehicles, you will now pay anything between £200,000 and £250,000 for one of these as an RS version. And although they were made in fairly limited numbers, as you're already starting to see, not quite as rare as some of the other cars in this list. And very interestingly, for Porsche geeks amongst us, is that the 964 RS was not that different to the 964 Carrera 2. It had stiffer suspension, it had a stiffer chassis, it had 10 brake horsepower more, and a different interior because, of course, it was race orientated. But despite that, versus a standard Carrera 2 like this car here, it's about 3 times more expensive than a 964 Carrera 2. And the appreciation on that car since it was first produced in 1992, wait for it, there's been a 264% increase over the 33 years that the 964 RS has existed. And again, that equates to an 8% per annum increase. So if you paid £55,000 for this car when it was new, it's now worth something like £200,000, maybe £250,000. That's something like an 8 to 10% per annum increase. Not bad. And I guess the argument has to be, and let's say this kind of at the early outset, now that we're getting into the numbers, you could either put your money in the bank, couldn't you, and sit there and either take the interest or be a little bit more risky and stick it into, I don't know, stock market or whatever, as we've said, but then you wouldn't have one of these to look at in the garage, or indeed to take out on a quiet summer's Sunday morning to rag through a few B-roads. I think this versus Hargreaves Lansdowne, no disrespect to Peter Hargreaves, I think most of you would choose the 964 RS all day long, wouldn't you? In at number 7 is the 911, this is a bit of a mouthful, forgive me, 997.2 GT3 RS, but the 4 litre. The 3.8 is a wonderful, lovely thing, but the 4 litre is a bit more special, and mainly because they didn't produce that many of them. Obviously, it's a much rarer car than the 3.8. Produced in 2011, the car new was £128,000. The 4 litre RS, which is renowned now in Porsche circles, has skyrocketed in value. You won't get much change out of £400,000, which is an appreciation since that car was launched in 2011, 14 years ago, of about 200%, 213%. So on an annualized basis, if you're into such things in terms of what the annual rate of return would have been, about 15%, which is why it makes number 7. Let me just introduce you to these guys. We're delighted to be supported in this video by Fairmont Sports and Classics in Brentwood in Essex. They have about 130 cars in stock, what the owner Dave Scarborough calls affordable classics, including, fun enough, a number of Porsches, which I'm going to show you in just a second. But it's a privately owned, family-owned business that sells everything from Porsches to MGs to Ferraris to Lancias to Subarus to Mercedes to BMWs and so on and so on and so on. Let me just tell you a little bit more about this business, and let's just have a look at some of their stock. This is a proper treasure trove of cars. I feel a bit like a 6-year-old in a sweet shop, particularly with regard to the amount of Porsches here. On the stock list here, which they've just given me, 130 cars, about 11 of them are Porsche. Behind me, you'll see a 993 cab. I used to sell those, believe it or not, when they were new in 1994, 95, 96. You can probably see in the background, there's a 997 Cabriolet there. That's a 2006 car that's done 10,000 miles. That's the sort of stuff they have here. Very, very well curated, I have to say. Dave Scarborough, the owner, looks after the purchase and the kind of filtering through of cars for stock himself. Again, family-owned business, independently owned. They kind of live and breathe it here. This thing here, this really is the ultimate yuppie mobile. So this is a 1988 F-plate 911 3.2 Carrera Sport Cabriolet. If you were a city banker or an insurance underwriter in the City of London in the mid to late 1980s, and you just got your 30 or 40 grand bonus, you would have gone straight to one of the Porsche centres in London, Follett's, I think it was at the time, back down in towards Wapping, and you would have bought yourself one of these, particularly a Cabriolet back then. Grand Prix White, of course, one of the basically the 3 colours that everybody went for back in the 80s. It was either Grand Prix White, Gars Red or Black. But look at it, it's lovely. And this thing has done 100,000 miles in all of that time, so registered in 1988, as I believe, and it really is lovely. Can't resist getting in it, frankly. It kind of screams Gordon Gekko, doesn't it? And Wolf of Wall Street, frankly. Just a really, really cool thing. And of course, not that many of them. And talking of classic 911s, this is the kind of son of that, really. This is a 964, which they made between 1989 and 1994. This particular one is a Carrera 4, so it's a 4-wheel drive, the first time they put 4-wheel drive on 911. And this car has done just 60,000 miles, priced at £92,000. It's beautiful in diamond blue with linen and Metropole blue interior, as it is. A really, really lovely thing. It's not a Porsche, but we also must talk about this. This is what I refer to as the Bobby Ewing SL. Bobby Ewing as in Dallas. Those of you that are old enough to remember Dallas will know that Bobby Ewing and several other members of the cast drove one of these, either a 300 or a 500 SL. Again, lovely, lovely old thing. In at number 6 is another non-911. It is the infamous, the iconic, the beautiful, the wonderful V10 Carrera GT. That car new, when it was produced initially in 2004, £330,000, rather a lot of money now, let alone back then in 2004. But as most of you probably realise and appreciate, that car is now typically, again, depending on, £1.5 million. And in the 21 years or so since production, that car therefore has appreciated in value by 355%, which means on an annualised basis, it's increased by 17% per year. And that is why it is in at number 6. And with a hefty 21% annual appreciation rate is the 2016 911 991R. Guess how many of those they made of the 991 911R? 2 guesses. One would be 911, which would be incorrect. The other would be 991, which would be correct. A very, very rare thing indeed. Again, particularly in right-hand drive form. That car new was £136,000 back in 2016, so 9 years ago. You will have to pay, on average, and there is one of these cars available right now at Porsche Colchester, by the way, £390,000. That's a 187% increase in value in that 9 years, which equates, as I say, to a 21% increase year on year. So that's the 911R, the 991 version, at number 5. So it wouldn't be a Porschenomics video, would it, without us having a bit of driving action. So I'm in a 964 Carrera 2. But the next car that I want to talk about on our hit list is number 4. And that is, again, not a 911, the 959. A genuine, iconic, legendary Porsche. First introduced in 1986 at a price of a mere £145,000. You can just imagine how expensive that was, though, back in the day. So that car has appreciated in value by about 934%, which is about 24% per annum. So pretty strong performance, both in terms of how it's appreciated financially and indeed the performance of that flat six twin turbo engine, the likes of which Daley Thompson, Nigel Benn and others revelled in owning. And of course, one of the holy trilogy of that time, that and the F40 and the McLaren F1, I guess, so truly iconic. Only 337 959s were produced. Goodness knows how many are left in the world, but an icon, a legend, and I think deservedly at number 4 with a 24% increase in value year after year since it was first produced back in 1986. Okay, at number 3, it's probably one of the ones that you've been waiting for, although definitely not a rare car, not a vehicle, I have to say, that is rare in number like some of the vehicles that we've just been talking about. Car is the 930 Turbo, the 911 Turbo, but in particular the 3-litre version, the version that was introduced as actually the world's fastest performing production car in 1974, the 3-litre non-intercooled 930 Turbo. That car, when new, was an extremely expensive car, I have to tell you. It was something like £14,000. These days, obviously, it's not even half a Fiesta, is it? But back then, very, very expensive compared to, let's say, an E-Type or even an Aston Martin. So that car, since it was first produced 51 years ago, that car now, inarguably, is a £200,000 car. That is what that car would usually and generally sell for as a 3-litre version. Obviously the 3.3 version, the intercooled version that came out slightly later in the 70s, lots more of those, but you're still going to pay £110,000, £120,000 for a 3.3 930. But on the basis of that appreciation, this car makes number 3. Okay, we're getting to the rub of it all now. We are at number 2 in the list of the 10 best Porsches ever to have purchased from an investment point of view, those that have returned the most based on their new price when launched versus their value now. And we continue with the air-cooled theme, because at number 2 is the beautiful, the ferocious, the much, much coveted, and I hate to keep using words like icon and legend, but this is also an icon and a legendary car, and that is the 993 GT2. Again, rarely produced, car that was made for the track, ferocious in terms of performance. You rarely see them on the road or even at events, actually, let alone on the road. But that car was £145,000 when new, back in 1995. And again, disagree with me in the comments if you like. The consensus is that the value of a 993 GT2 is something around £1.5 million now. So if we calculate that upwards, that car has appreciated about 900% since it was first new 30 years ago. That is an annual return of 31%. So 31% increase in value compounded for every year since the 993 GT2 was first launched. Again, I think you can see why that has made number 2. What a phenomenal investment that would have been if only in 1995 most of us had realised what an appreciating asset the 993 GT2 was going to be. So that's the first 9 from 10 all the way down to 2 in our top 10 best ever Porsches to have invested in. Let's just have a quick recap, shall we? At number 10 is the 997.2 GT2 RS. At number 9, the 918 Spider. At number 8, the 911 964 RS. And number 7, the 997.2 GT3 4-litre RS. Number 6, the Carrera GT. Number 5, the 991 911R. Number 4, the 959. Number 3, the 911 Turbo 3-litre 930. And at number 2, as you've just seen, the 993 GT2. What is number 1? Okay, so we said at the beginning of this video that we asked ChatGPT and the power of that technology, what the top 10 best Porsches to have bought ever from an investment perspective. And we've gone from 10 through 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3 and 2. And now number one. Arguably, again, I'm going to use the words again, iconic, legendary, the epitome really of the 911 in terms of heritage, and also probably the first true 911, I guess, properly track focused sports car, notwithstanding the 911R before you all start sticking stuff in the comments, which you're more than welcome to do, of course. That car has to be, it can only be, it is, and I'm sure you've been waiting for this, the 911 2.7 RS. Here's the thing in particular, of 1,550 2.7 RSs ever produced on this planet, about a third of them, about 500, were the lightweight version. Therefore, it is twice as rare as the touring version, which is why the lightweight version will make in excess of £1 million, depending on condition and provenance, whereas you can pick up a 2.7 RS touring for just £400,000 or £500,000 in the UK. Again, right-hand drive variants obviously rarer because there were simply few of them. But it shouldn't be a surprise to you that the number one Porsche, arguably actually the number one 911, the number one Porsche ever from a driving point of view and an ownership point of view, let alone the financial aspect, which obviously is what we're talking about in this video, is the 2.7 RS. The car is a car that was £6,000 new in 1973. So the rate of appreciation between that price point, £6,000, which was a lot of money back in the day, I think twice as much money actually as the likes of an E-Type Jaguar. The rate of appreciation is something like, wait for it, 16,000% in total over the 52 years since that car was first launched. So by far, on the basis of it having an annual appreciation rate of over 300%, the 911 2.7 RS is our winner. I don't think you can disagree with that, but if you do, by all means, in addition to liking and subscribing to this channel, to this video, by all means, put your thoughts in the comments. Have we missed anything? Do you think we're wrong in terms of some of the cars that we have portrayed in this list? Or is, as I think it is, and this is of course a matter of opinion, actually not just mine but ChatGPT's, is this the most definitive list of 911 icons from an investment perspective ever produced? I'll let you be the judge of that. This has been Porschenomics. Until next time, thank you very much. Oh, and by the way, before you go, as this is an episode that's all about the economics of Porsche, hence it's called Porschenomics, if you had put £6,000 into the bank in 1973 and compounded the interest on top of that over the next 52, 53 years, your cash lump sum would be £328,000. So indeed, if you had bought a 2.7 RS, whether it be a lightweight or a touring, you would be way, way ahead of the game in terms of financial gain and appreciation, thanks to what these have done. And on top of that, you would have had the benefit of owning one of these, looking at it, driving it, and no doubt loving it. So not all cars appreciate like a 2.7 RS, as we've shown, but I think it's fair to say that when it comes to the majority of Porsches, particularly older ones, certainly those in limited number, they're better than sticking your money in the bank, isn't it, aren't they?